Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the Andy-Social Podcast. My name is Andy, and welcome to the people that are listening for the first time. I could not think of a better time to join in on the fun. A couple of great guests to kick things back into full swing. We've had some breaks previously, so it's great to see, at least from my perspective anyway, that the podcast is still going, and we've definitely kicked it up a notch, which is great. And if you've been listening long term, thank you so much, as always, for tuning in, listening, and supporting in the various ways. Speaking of which, very quickly, Amazon. If you shop on Amazon, you can go to andysocial.net and click on the Amazon portal link. If you are a regular shopper on Amazon, you'll notice that your shopping experience does not change whatsoever, apart from clicking on a different link. What then happens is once you order something, I'll get a very small amount or a percentage of what you order. What this does is those few dollars will help fund this podcast. So I've got little monthly expenses and whatnot to keep this podcast up and running. It also helps me get around the place and talk to people. Lots of great plans for 2017. I'm really looking forward to taking this to the next level. So all these little things help quite a bit. So thank you so much for the people that do regularly shop on Amazon and have been using the portal link. So you can go to andysocial.net and do a right click on the portal link and save that link into your toolbar, so you don't have to keep going to my website every time you want to shop on Amazon. But it is there, and so it's a massive, massive help for me. So thank you so much to those people. If you're not interested in doing that, the best thing that you can do if you do want to support the podcast is just spreading the word. All these episodes are not only on iTunes, but they're on Stitcher, they're on YouTube. The YouTube links are probably the best way to share this stuff around. So if you want to get someone into the podcast, or people that aren't familiar with the podcast world, there's plenty of episodes there to, I guess, so to speak, break them in to what this is all about. But, the usual social media stuff, liking, commenting, sharing, the usual stuff. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, let's move along. I'll wrap that up later on at the end of the podcast itself. And I know I'm boring you guys senseless. So last week we spoke with Vinny Appice. This week we're speaking with Vinny Appice, his brother. The story behind these two podcast episodes is that in February, the Appice brothers are coming to Australia for their Drum Wars shows, part of their Drum Wars tour. Now, what this is them both on stage together, battling it out on their respective drum kits. They're both accomplished drummers, and that's really speaking lightly. These guys have been around for decades. They've played with absolutely anyone and everyone that you can possibly think of in the rock and metal world. Vinny this week, who I spoke to, most known for his time in Black Sabbath and with Dio, amongst a whole range of other things. And in fact, he even played on some John Lennon recordings in the 70s as well, which we speak about in this episode. Really, really cool, and an amazing drummer. Someone that I've actually looked up to for quite a number of years, especially being such a massive Dio fan. So it was very surreal to talk to Vinny and just relive some of these memories that he's had. And I really tried hard not to go into the stock standard questions that these guys would have been asked a million times over the years. I tried to go down a different path and keeping in tune with what this podcast is about. And for those that don't know, the podcast is about me, I guess, learning from other people. I want to be a better person, as I'm sure we all do. And if I can speak to people from different walks of life, whether it be from the music industry or other industries and other backgrounds, I learn something from those conversations, whether it be a new perspective on life, a philosophy, whether it be some sort of skill set or just a bit of learning that I wasn't aware of prior. So it's a bit selfish, it's a bit for me, but the bonus to this is that I can share these conversations with you all as well, and hopefully you're all taking something from this. So I've really made an effort to try and ask a few different questions and spin them in a different way with Vinny. And I'm quite happy with the way that the episode came out, so I'm hoping you guys enjoy it too. Now, plugging the tour, I will do this at the end of the podcast as well, but very quickly, if you are in Australia, especially in Sydney or Melbourne, or if you're interested and you live anywhere in the country, the tour is in Sydney and Melbourne in mid-February. So there's 2 shows and 2 drum clinics. So we've got a clinic and a show in Sydney, and then a show and a clinic in Melbourne, in that order. So very quickly, Thursday, February 16th at the Factory Theatre is the drum clinic. And then the following night, Friday, February 17th, at the same venue, the Factory Theatre, will be the Drum Wars show. On Saturday, February 18th, will be the Drum Wars show at Max Watts. And then Sunday, February 19th in Melbourne will be the Drum Clinic, which will be at Croxton Park. Now, I didn't mention this, and if you didn't listen to the previous episode, I'll mention it right now. The link that I have with this is that I've been asked to be the bass player for these shows, which is quite surreal. I'm extremely honoured and blown away that I was approached, and it's going to be really cool. And to make things even better, we've got Mike Mills from Toe Hider, who's going to be on guitar as well. This is really cool because not only have I known Mike for quite a few years, but Mike and I have played together, and in fact have actually done a Dio tribute show. It was about a year after Ronnie's passing, where we played a lot of Dio stuff together. So we've already got some existing chemistry, and I think that'll make things a lot easier and will be add a new dynamic to this tour. So we're really looking forward to being a part of it. We'll be selling tickets, but if you want to grab some tickets straight away, go to hardlinemedia.net. There's also meet and greet packages available as well on there. So all your details are there. I'll mention at the end of the episode. I am blabbing on and on and on, but you guys are used to it. Enough talking. Please enjoy this episode with Vinny Appice. So there's a question that I asked Carmine yesterday, and I'm going to ask you as well. I'll see what sort of answer you give as opposed to him. You've both had really long careers, and even now you're still involved in a whole range of different projects, including Drum Wars. Do you have a secret to or a special approach to your longevity? Because there's so many musicians over the years that come and go. Some only last a couple of years and they disappear. But to be able to continue to do what you're doing after several decades, is there a particular approach or anything that you kept in mind, or a philosophy?
Well, that's a good point. And I think we can say that, first of all, you have to be pretty good, on your instrument, and or really good in something special, So that would come down to like every time I play, no matter who's in the audience or how big a place we're playing, I'm playing at 110% all the time from my heart,
Mm-hmm.
And I love playing. I love what I do. So that's always there. I think the other important couple of things are you got to be healthy, especially for a long career like this. Stay healthy. I mean, both of us never got into heavy drugs or any drugs really. And, we always stayed healthy, and we are always reliable. When we're in the project or something, somebody calls, we're there. We're always in communication, easy to get a hold of. There's a project that comes up, A great example of that is in my career a long time ago was, sitting at home one day and I was going to repair some of the lawn sprinklers in my house outside. I live in California. And I thought, okay, I'll go to Home Depot, a big giant store here, and go get some parts and stuff. And then the phone rings, and Sharon Osbourne, she says, "Hi, Vinny, this is Sharon. Yes. Can you come to London, play with the band?" I said, "Sure. When do you want me to come?" She goes, "Today." I said, "Oh, okay, I'm there. Let me make the arrangements." And then 4 hours later, I was on a plane to London, so to go play with Sabbath, the first reunion they ever did.
Yep.
So it's things like that where you have to be available, you have to be ready to go on the drop of a hat, and then be able to be reached, because if I didn't answer the phone or didn't respond, it would have been somebody else that went,
Yeah.
Obviously I was the first choice, but so it's things like that, be good, be a great player, and always play from your heart, believe in what you're doing in the music, and then stay healthy, and then always be in communication, and networking and things like that.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
And the other thing with me and Carmine is, one thing we have in common is we both never stopped from when we started. And that keeps you strong. It keeps you it's like a road warrior. It keeps you in shape. It's not like, we stopped for 5 years and got fat. Then I want to get back into it and join another band. We never stopped. Project after band after band after project, boom, boom, boom. Me, since 1976 is when I really started professionally, So, and even before that, I never stopped. So I never stopped playing. So I'm really strong. And that's a key in a long career, you know. Just don't stop.
Yeah, that's perfect. And one question I do have about, especially right back at the beginning, one thing that I always, especially see with musicians coming through now, it's a completely different world than what it was, I assume, back in the early 70s. How did you get your name out there to begin with? Because I know that you did some recordings with John Lennon right sort of back in the early days. How did you get your name out there so people knew who you were and could be contacted? Because after a while, obviously, you would have a reputation and a profile and people would come to you. But initially, you would have had to hustle quite a bit.
Well, see, that's the thing with networking, like, you know, having a lot of connections and meeting different people. I had a band in Brooklyn, New York, and my friend Angelo was playing bass in the band. Angelo wound up being the sound man and recording engineer for Dio and all the early records, and being live sound man for Sabbath too. So he was my best friend. And so he introduced me to this guitar player, Joey Damber was his name, and we had a band together. We had gotten 4 horn players. We were like a really cool, like, funk rock band. And the guitar player knew Jimmy Iovine, who worked at that time at the record plant as a producer. He was producing Stevie Nicks and Bruce Springsteen. Bruce was just recording his first album there. And so he was doing John Lennon. And so we got into the studio and did some demos, and the owner of the record plant studios loved us and signed us to a management deal. And he gave us a room in the record plant studios up on the top floor to rehearse anytime we wanted. It was our room. So we moved all our gear there, and we'd rehearse every night. So one night, Jimmy called and said, hey, can you guys come down and do some hand claps for this session? We said, sure. There was 9 of us, you know. So we came down to the studio, and we look in, and there's John Lennon in the controller. We go, oh, shit. I was like 16 years old. And I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, shit, John Lennon. So we did hand claps on the song, Whatever Gets You Through the Night.
Wow.
You know, so that's me and my band doing hand claps. Then we went upstairs to our room. We were freaking out. And John probably asked Jimmy, who the heck was that? Who was that? And Jimmy explained, that's the band I'm producing, and blah, blah, blah. And they're upstairs. So a couple of days later, John came to our rehearsal, walks in to see us, and he liked the band. And from then on, he used to come up a lot. We played pool with him and hung out with him. And then he asked us to do 3 videos with him because we were right there. It was easy to do. So we did that. Then he asked us to do this live gig at the New York Hilton Hotel, which is going to be televised on TV around the world. And so he picked us to be his backup band. And then I find out a couple of years ago that was his last live appearance ever.
Right. Wow.
So, I mean, talk about, like, wow.
Yeah.
I got to play with John Lennon. And it was his last gig. Holy shit. So that's a perfect example of meeting people, you know, and being there at the right time. I mean, what if we didn't rehearse that night?
Absolutely.
You know, if we didn't rehearse that night and Jimmy goes, I need some hand claps. Let me grab some people in the hall. You know, we wouldn't have met John Lennon. We wouldn't have been doing these gigs with him, and the whole thing. It's amazing.
And what a way to start
things like that.
Yeah, and what a way to start out, you know, this long career is that you start at such a high point straight away. You know, it's pretty
See,
surreal.
the other thing was I never went. Yeah, it's unbelievable starting there, and I didn't treat it as a fan. Like I never, which I should have, and I wish I did, ask him for his autograph. You know, I wanted him to feel comfortable around us. Like, yeah, we're your friend, and we're fellow musicians, and, you know, obviously we know who you are. So none of us really, as far as I remember, you know, acted like a fan. We just acted like, okay, you want us to do the video? Okay, you know, let's work together and blah, 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 as professional musicians, you know.
I'm
sure he felt comfortable.
Yeah, I'm sure he appreciated that. I mean, that's obviously why it worked to the extent that it did.
But now I wish I had that autograph.
Absolutely. I mean, you said it before, networking. I mean, especially now, I think so many people rely too much on the internet and just contact people in this digital world to try and hook things up. And it's important, but I think the whole face-to-face of building relationships with people is just so underrated these days. And I think people need to take a step back and look at, you know, where to find opportunities. And sometimes it's just getting out there and talking to people, and then those opportunities may pop up.
Yeah, like when I was asked to join Black Sabbath. It was they got my number from, I think, Warner Brothers or something. Heard, because back then at that point I had a couple albums out with Rick Derringer, so I was getting a little name built up. And then, so for me, I got a phone call from the tour manager, and then he invited me down to come to the hotel and meet Tony Iommi. Mm. So, it wasn't like, Tony wanted to meet me first before saying, yeah, come join the band. He wanted to see what kind of personality I had and blah, blah, blah. So that's important. Nowadays, the internet, who knows what would happen.
Yeah,
look, wow, he's got a good profile picture and that kind of shit,
Yeah, it's very different. And in some ways it's good, and I think there's a lot of advantages, but I think you need that balance. You need to still be able to get out there and meet people and have that face-to-face connection. Yeah, definitely. You mentioned before, or just then, about getting the call up for Black Sabbath. Now, I've read a bunch of different interviews, and I'm pretty sure what happened is you were sort of caught off guard and you had to go and do your first show in Hawaii. So you sort of had a book full of notes of the songs, and you had to sort of learn as you go.
Yeah, what happened was I met Tony that night. He invited me down to rehearsal the next day. I went down the next day, met Ronnie Geezer and Jeff, the keyboard player. Mm-hmm. So we played. I didn't know any of the songs. I heard Neon Nights on the radio a couple of weeks before, and I just happened to know it was fast. That's the first song we ever played together. But I didn't really know it, but I knew it was the tempo and fast song, so I just wrote along with it. And so we rehearsed, and then we worked on a couple of things, not long, and then everybody was so happy. Go, let's go to the pub. Go have a drink, So we went to the pub, and that killed some time. And then we went back to rehearse. And then each day we rehearsed a little bit and went to the pub. Everybody was really happy. So we started to run out of time. We only had 4 days rehearsing. So I was like, oh, shit, man, I got to learn all this stuff. So I wrote a cheat book out, with each song, with some musical notations, and then things like stop, 3/4 timing. They counted off, metronome or whatever. So I had all that written in a book, in order of the set.
Yep.
And then we played Hawaii. I had the book next to me, and then it started sprinkling and raining a little bit. The wind picked up, so after about 4 songs, the book got all wet and all soggy. You couldn't read it. And it was like, oh, shit. So now we had to just wing it, from memory and looking at each other, which we did. And we got through it, And the book, I signed it and threw it out in the audience. I should have saved it. Who knew? It was part of history, kind of, But I threw it in the audience, and somebody's got it. I don't know who. But that was my book.
And at least, I think the big thing when I read that initially was, so many people wait until everything lines up perfectly. They want to make sure that they're 100% capable. All the planets have aligned in the perfect formation before they take that step and dive into something. And I think a lot of the time you just need to get in there and just give it a shot. And I think people usually miss out on opportunities because they're too busy worried about having the perfect set of circumstances to take on the next task or the next opportunity that comes along.
Yeah, it's like rehearsing all the time. You have a band that rehearses all the time, and you keep playing the songs and playing them. It's really good, and then you keep making some mistakes, and people make mistakes here and there. But once you go out and there's that gig and you got to play, it comes together remarkably well. Like you'll see with us when we rehearse. It'll be, sometimes it might be a little overwhelming, but we'll get through it. And then when we get in front of the audience, it'll be like, okay, we're all up here together and kick some ass, and it'll work.
Well, on that note, I asked this question to Carmine yesterday, and he gave me an interesting answer. So with Drum Wars, and you've done quite a few shows so far across the world, and you've played with different musicians in different places. So you've had to go through this process where you've had to come into a setting where you've had to quickly learn or gel with another couple of musicians. What advice would you give me as the bass player to be prepared for either when we get together for that quick rehearsal beforehand or the show itself? Is there anything any advice that you've got for me personally? Well,
obviously learn the songs, and the most important thing is copping the feel.
Yep.
Like we've played with so many different people, and some of them are just not. I come from the metal world, more of the heavy rock you know, it's not so technical as it is just the feel and the sound of the instrument, you know. Like Jimmy Bain, I played with Jimmy Bain a lot with Dio, and he had a lot of clank on the bass and a lot of low end, and it just felt right, you know. He wasn't a technical bass player. You know, he'd make mistakes sometimes, but it was still that sound and feel that was important. So those are the things that will stand out, because obviously if you used to playing more progressive music and cleaner sound, and those things are going to stick out more than you can know the song perfectly, but it just doesn't feel like the song should feel, you know. But that's just the way it is, and then we'll all adjust to it, you know.
Yeah. Cool.
So I think that's the important thing, is trying to cop the feel. And, you know, there's a vibe on the songs, you know, and the Dio stuff, and there's an attitude. Those things are important as much as learning the correct notes and stuff, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
And the sound.
Yeah. And the good thing about this tour in Australia is that my background with the band that I play in, we're heavily influenced by, I guess, a lot of traditional 80s style heavy metal and hard rock. So, you know, bands like maybe Queensryche, and then even European stuff like Halloween, and then we even go into a bit of the rock stuff with like Dokken and whatnot. So I've got a bit of that from my background. And then Mike's also, he's a bit more progressive, but he comes from a bit of the old school metal world as well. But the best thing about this, which fell into place, is that Mike and I have played previously together, and we actually did a Dio tribute show. I think it was a year after Ronnie had passed. It's a bit of a tribute show. So we went through a whole range of Rainbow, Sabbath, Dio solo songs as well. So we've already got a bit of existing chemistry, which should help quite a bit with then gelling with both you and Carmine when we get together. Yeah,
that should be great. You know, that should be fine. And I played on some of Mike's stuff, and you know, it was pretty amazing stuff. And I really enjoyed it, and his vocals and everything. It's really cool stuff. Yeah, so it's just like, you know, we'll adapt. You know, obviously we want the show to be as great as possible. You know, and so, you know, I like it loud. You know, usually the way we set up is we got the drums in the front, the bass is in the middle behind the drums, so we both hear you.
Yep.
And then we put the guitar on my right side. I'm on stage right.
Gotcha.
Because I like it loud. Carmine doesn't like it so loud. You know, I'm used to fucking power. You know, I like to feel power, and we always put the guitar on my side so I can crank, you know, and like a wall of sound, you know. So you know, but we'll adapt and you know, listen to the songs. Don't be nervous or anything. We'll have a good time.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward
to it. And then, you know, depending on how good you guys are, sometimes we go off with one, you know, the one is gone and start playing all over the place, but you'll see what happens.
well, Carmine's advice to me, which is quite interesting, was at times really sort of lock in with the guitars more so than the drums, because you'll both sort of go off in a different direction. Yeah. And at times, you know, the bass can lose its spot because you're usually, I guess traditionally, that rhythm section, the bass and the drums locking in. But if you guys are both going off and doing your thing and going outside of the realms of the traditional song, that is, then I guess the guitar and the bass really need to just lock in together and just wait for you guys to come back into the song. You guys lock in. Yeah.
Right. Don't, when it's flying all over the place, don't listen to us, you know. and then if we hear it starting to pull apart, you know, one of us will go back or we'll both go back, and that's the whole beauty of it, you know. Yeah. It's nothing really, that doesn't have to be set in stone, you know. You guys want to wail on it too, go for it, you know.
Yeah.
So kick each other in the ass, you know.
Sounds good. No, I'm really looking forward to it. Absolutely. On the topic of Mike Mills, I've known Mike for quite a few years, but from your perspective, how did that all come about with recording on his last EP from last year? Did Mike get in contact with you out of the blue?
Yeah, because I have the website and people can email me, and, you know, I check the emails and stuff, and then I get a lot of requests from different projects and stuff, and then I'll usually have them send some music over, you know, and if it's my kind of thing, and I like it, I'll do it. So that's what happened with Mike. He sent me some songs, and I'm like, oh, this is really cool. And some of it's not exactly heavy metal, but it's good rock, and it's more of a challenge for me to play it, you know. So I like, okay, I want to do this. This is a challenge, to make this thing come alive. So that's how we met. And then I sent them some of the tracks, and then I always send the track and then wait for the comments, It's thinking I put me in it, I don't play it so straight. I always put Vinny in it.
Yeah.
Because that's why you're called, really.
Absolutely.
So I'll do that, and then I'll wait for the comments, and I can always fix it, punch in the part if it's different, if I need to fix it or something, But I love doing that. I love doing sessions that way, and I'm the engineer too, so I'm running it with a wireless keyboard, and I got my big screen. I'm punching myself in. Sometimes I punch in so perfectly I don't even need to fix it. It's stupid.
Perfect.
Like I listen to it, I go, that sounds perfect. I mean, there's no punching noise, Sometimes there is punching noise, but most of the time I get it and crash right into it where you don't even hear it. It's awesome.
Well, it definitely helps having that set up there and obviously doing it quite a bit. So you obviously are good at what you do and playing for so many years as well.
Well, I used to go to a friend's house. And I would be in the control, in the big room, and he'd be in the control room, and I played, and I'd have to listen on the phone. I go, let me punch that in again. Let me do that. And it was just, now I can do that instantly, and I can mess around a lot easier and figure out what I'm hearing that I want to play, so I can experiment a lot easier, and I can come up with different parts that I couldn't do with somebody in the control room. It's just unbelievable. I love doing it this way. It's way better.
That's cool.
So,
well, it's nice the way that, yeah, absolutely, and it's nice the way that things have panned out with Mike being able to be a part of the tour as well. So there's a bit of prior connection there that no doubt will help when we all get together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that should be killer. He's a great player, and we're looking forward to this.
Yeah.
I told Carmine, that I played on some of Mike's stuff, and pretty awesome.
That's cool. I'm sure he'll be happy to hear that as well.
Oh yeah.
You mentioned before about Jimmy Bain, and I guess from my point of view, I always call myself young and inexperienced. So I don't know much about anything at all, and I'm always learning. But one thing that I haven't really experienced, and you certainly have, especially in the recent years, is that a lot of people that you've played with, and I mean most noticeably would be Ronnie and Jimmy that have both passed on. Going through that period of time where you've had people that you played with that are no longer here, does it change you personally or the way that you function as a musician or as a professional or anything of the such? Because from my point of view, and I've been playing, I guess for about 10, 15 years, I haven't really gone through these things, but no doubt later on down the track, these things will no doubt happen. But I'm curious, I guess, from a perspective point of view, going through all these different periods and these people, unfortunately passing on, does it change, I guess, where you sit in the grand scheme of things and how you look at relationships or professionally as a musician?
Well, I never did before, and then, never really experienced band members, actually dying, So when Ronnie died, it was shocking. It was like, wow, this is who knew this day was coming, So that was like very shocking, and it seemed like everything fell apart. Like, now what's going to happen? What am I going to do? Blah, blah, blah. But it has this way of working out, and then, time heals. And then the next thing there's still playing these songs with different people because the songs are great and people want to hear them. And I'm part of those songs. And so it worked out, and you just accept the fact that, well, Ronnie's not going to be singing this anymore. So there's other people singing it, and nobody could sing it like Ronnie, obviously. But it turns into something else when you got a really, like, we got Chaz singing for us. He's a really great singer, and he really pumps it out, and he's good. It sounds like, it's him singing it, not Ronnie. So, and then when Jimmy died, that was another shocker. And, Jimmy played a certain way, and it was very English style with the sound, and he wasn't a technical bass player. He could plug into anything and sound good. We used to say he could plug into the microwave and play through that, and it would sound good. I mean, that's the way he was. He'd come down to rehearsals, guitars all dirty, and basses, strings haven't been changed in a month. He'd plug in, and it would sound like Jimmy. It's amazing. So it was just the way he played, the sound that he got. And so now we're I'm playing with The Last in Line, which is the original. We started as the original Dio band, with Jimmy and a different singer. The singer's Andy Freeman. And he's this amazing singer. And we did a record and stuff, and then Jimmy passed. So we did gigs with Jimmy. Then we had to take some time off, and then we got Phil Soussan. He played with Ozzy, and Phil fits in really well, you know. And it's a different type, a little different sound than Jimmy, and a different approach from some of the parts. I could hear it as a drummer, but we make it work, you know. And it's real close to what it should sound like, and but it'll never be Jimmy playing if he played a certain way. So it's just like Led Zeppelin with Jason Bonham. You know, it sounds like the drum parts because he learned them, but it's not John Bonham.
Definitely. Does it give you? I mean, does it give you a different perspective now as to, I guess, the people that are still around and that you're playing with? I don't know. I haven't experienced it myself, but I'm always curious as to, you know, when these things happen and you don't expect it to happen, whether it just dramatically sort of changes the way that you sort of look at the people that you play with and that you've got relationships with?
Well, the way you look at that is you go, you know what? I'm glad everybody's here right now. One day we're not going to be here.
Yeah.
So, you know, you never know what could happen. And it's great to know that, well, you know what? Right now we're playing. This is a great thing, and I'm going to enjoy it, you know. I'd be happy to go on stage every night with these guys, you know. So as you get older, you know, you start to think, well, shit. You start to think more, you know, how much longer is everybody going to be around? Yeah. You know, my brother's Carmine's going to turn 70. He doesn't look it, and he doesn't sound it. He plays his ass off. But you go, you know, shit. You know, when he was 60, you can go, okay, we could do this another 10 years. But, you know, he's 70. He's going to be 80 years old in 10 years. That's going to be too old to be jumping around like crazy man, you know, traveling and shit. But he'll probably do it.
Well, so, you do it while you can.
Yeah. So you just do it while you can, enjoy it. And Gene Simmons said one time, it's an honor to walk onto that stage. It should be an honor for everybody who plays to walk on that stage and not take it for granted, you know.
Absolutely. That's really cool. I mean, you've played with so many people over the years, especially, and the same with Carmine as well. Not so much your early influences, but I mean, through the years of working with so many different musicians, were there particular people that I guess influenced you along the way, not so much in the early days, but sort of later on down the track when you were already successful and accomplished? Were there certain people that just came into your life as far as from a musician point of view and even personally that dramatically sort of changed your approach, or whether it be to your playing itself or just the way that you conduct yourself professionally as a musician?
Well, the whole trick is when you play, you know, with different people is you can learn from everybody. And especially when you're young, you should go in with eyes wide open. You know, I went in and played with first the John Lennon thing, and I was like trying to be as easygoing as possible, and whatever he wanted to hear, I'm there, you know, and easy to work with. And then when I went with Rick Derringer, he was a true professional. He's been on the road for years making records, had some great success. And I watched him. I went, this guy really got his shit together, you know, the word professional. Every night he did a guitar solo that was flawless, never let anybody down, never partied too much and couldn't play, never sick, and he was always there. So being in the band with him, you were never let down by that member of the band. So you learn from that. You go, wow, okay. And he could teach you a lot of things in the studio, out of the studio. So all the things you go through, and especially with people that are successful and have a career, you go, I'm going to learn from this, you know. And then Sabbath, you know, why are they so big? Why is it that we're filling arenas and shit, you know? And Dio, you know, Ronnie, you work with Ronnie, and there's a certain procedure these guys work at, a way they do things, the way they play, and the way they look at things and deal with business. So there's always something to learn. So even when you're along in your career, unless you got your own major thing going on that's totally successful, there's always something to learn. So that's a good point.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's something that I'm always interested in, meeting new people, and whether it be, performing or just, socially and whatnot, I'm always looking for a new perspective or a new thought, or something that might just swing me in a different direction, something that I didn't know before, whether it be a technical skill or even just just a new outlook on life from somebody else. So I'm always interested to see the way that other people have sort of picked things up as they go throughout life.
Yeah, that's a good point. You should do that and just watch what other people do, that especially people you respect, like with Ronnie, the first gig, had I been backstage and he's going, "Oh shit, man, I don't feel good. Fuck, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. Oh crap, shit." Yeah, it would have been negative all the time. I would have went, "Holy shit." How does he, that's what happened? But it was never like that. It was like, he fucking totally confident. Didn't warm up, nothing. Total confidence. And didn't want to let anybody down. Went out and did 110% every night. So you go, "Well, shit, that's the way to do it."
And
that's where you learn.
And that's why he was what he was, and even now, like, just with so much respect and legacy that's been left, and a lot of that would have come from just his approach, I guess.
Well, he took the time for his fans. He loved his fans.
Yeah.
One of the first things I saw was, riding the limo outside of the arena going back to the hotel, and it's cold out and people are waiting for autographs. He stopped the limo, got out, and signed everything. He cared about his fans. He knew people by name. He'd remember you. He took the time. He loved everybody. And that built a strong fan base where you could tell he loved what he was doing, and he loved his fans. So that's the thing to do. You don't just go, "Fuck them, let's go to the hotel,"
Yeah.
People waiting out in the cold. The first Dio tour, there used to be like 50, 60 people waiting for autographs in January in England. And at one point, there were so many people we were so big that we were playing theaters, and Ronnie said, "Okay, after the show, bring them in." Brought them into the theater. They all sit down. We'd be upstairs, drying off, eating, whatever. And then we come down, sign everything, take pictures with him. But he didn't want them to wait outside because it was freezing. So always do that. And to this day, I was just in Europe. I go out back onto the bus. There's a couple of people waiting, freezing their ass off. I go, "Shit, you're waiting here?" Yeah, sign everything, take pictures. It's an important part of it.
Yeah, definitely.
Take care of your fans.
It can be a very small gesture, but it can go a long way with people as far as their memories and what they think. Yeah.
See those people next year, they go, "Man, you were great. You stopped and talked to me, and you're buying your records and stuff. How could you not take care of them?" Great.
Yeah. Well, one last question. I'll wrap it up. So apart from the Australian shows, which I'll plug in this podcast later on, in February, what else is on the horizon for 2017 for yourself, or for the Drum Wars project? What's coming up in the new year?
Well, for Drum Wars, we're planning some more dates, and possibly going to Europe with that, and maybe in the spring. So with that said, last in line, we just came back from Europe, did a month tour there, and before that we did a bunch of dates around California area, Reno, and places like that. And then we're going back out for some shows in March, and then in the summer we're going to hit some festivals in Europe. So between that, I do a rock fantasy camp thing that they put on about every 3 months, and the next one I'm doing is with Deep Purple. That's here in LA. That's a great thing where people can buy into the camp and get to jam with us and be in a band, and then eventually play with Deep Purple live on stage. And it's a really cool thing. So I do a lot of those, about 4 or 5 of those a year too. So I got my hands full, which is great. And then in between that, sessions, clinics, everything I love.
Cool.
I love playing.
And another busy year ahead.
Yes, I love it.
Awesome. Well, I'll let you go. Thanks so much, and no doubt we'll be in touch via email between now and when you guys arrive in the country. And absolutely.
Yeah, any questions? Keep this number.
Yeah.
And then any questions with the songs getting to January? We'll be in touch and stuff.
Sounds good. Well,
it'll be good.
All the best, and we'll speak soon. And very excited to be playing with you guys next year.
All righty, Andy. Nice talking to you, brother.
Okay.
I'll see you soon, all right? Have a happy holiday.
Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Vinny. Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone. Hope you enjoyed that one. As I always say, it was really, really cool. I'm recording this literally after I got off the phone with Vinny, and the same with Carmine last week. Just lost for words and a bit of a pinch yourself moment. I come from a background where, you know, performing and being a musician and whatnot, and I haven't really done a lot of the whole interview style things. And I've been lucky that I've met a lot of my heroes over the years, either playing shows with them or just meeting them at, you know, a festival or a show or whatever it might be. But to be able to talk candidly, and I guess it is an interview, but I like to try and spin them as more of a conversation than an interview. But to be able to talk on that sort of level and have a little bit of time one-on-one with somebody like Vinny and Carmine is just, it's incredible. And this will be one of those moments that that I'll treasure for a long time. And it's really cool. It's great for this podcast. It's not something I would normally do, but just given the links and the association I have with the tour in February, I thought it was a great opportunity to have these guys featured on the podcast. So really, really cool. Now, as of recording this right now, I haven't done the episode yet, so I'm not 100%, but hopefully next week will be Mike Mills. I thought that'd be the perfect way to put all the musicians together that are going to be part of this tour and do consecutive weeks of talking to each person. So I'm going to be in Melbourne in a few days' time, so I'm hoping that it'll all fall into place and Mike and I will be able to have a chat, and that will be up and for your listening pleasure in about a week's time. If not, there'll probably be somebody else, and we'll keep plodding along the way that we're going. But thank you so much for everybody that's been supporting this podcast. Thank you for giving this podcast a shot if this is your first time. Drum Wars, the Appice Brothers tour, it's in February in Australia, in Sydney and Melbourne. Their clinics and shows, you can find all the information at hardlinemedia.net. You can also search for it on the social media channels, especially Facebook. All the info's on there as well. But very quickly, it starts Thursday, February 16th in Sydney at the Factory Theatre. That's the drum clinic. The following night, the 17th, at the same venue will be the Drum Wars show. Then on Saturday, February 18th, we'll be at Max Watts in Melbourne. That'll be the Drum Wars show. And then Sunday will be the Drum Clinic in Melbourne, Sunday, February 19th at Croxton Park. So if you're a drummer and you love the Appice Brothers, you love what they do, highly recommend you go to the clinics, especially, and the shows as well. If you're just an Appice fan or you're a fan of the bands that they've been a part of over the years, I recommend just going to as many of these things as possible and maybe making a weekend out of it and getting on a plane and traveling either up to Sydney or down to Melbourne. We'll be doing it. We'll be around, so it'd be cool to see some of you guys and experience the Appice Brothers show with all of you people as well. So hardlinemedia.net. I'll continue to plug tickets and the tour in future episodes leading up to the shows in February. And that's about it. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm everywhere. You just search for Andy Dowling. And any way that you guys can support the podcast will be greatly appreciated. Until next week, take care, guys. And thank you so much for the support. Later. You're ready.